I'm gonna talk a little bit, and this is a video that I am saying out loud that I will most likely not upload. More than likely, I'll just do this and then erase it, or rather delete it. But I want to see if I can talk about this because it's thoughts that I have that I don't express out loud too often. It's like I start to, and I talk to a degree, and then, but it's got to do with the whole idea that life is not what life is in the public sphere. It's what is perceived, and just how insane that oftentimes looks to me. I just want to comment about it. Just want to try to comment about it. Things that I hear about. I understand about having having your standards, your morals, and your codes of behavior. Excuse me, your codes of behavior that you run society by, that helps to shape the parameters of people's behavior. But one of what the thing that is, just to me, a double-edged sword, and mostly to me one that I see more damaging than helpful, is this whole idea of public perception about things that are rather personal. And at this point, it just seems that there's enough information and seemingly experience and intelligence that, you know, it would seem possible that, public perception could be a little more heightened, or I don't know. It just seems like it'd be more intelligent. Like, here's a couple examples. Again, this is just my personal outlook, and I want to try to talk about these things. I'm going to see if I can do it. And these are loaded subjects. And one is how, in the political sphere, the entire discussion about abortion and about abortion, right to life, it's like the main thing that I don't hear being dealt with in this discussion, where people are livid about their personal values regarding the sanctity of life, which, of course, life is sacred. The thing that I never hear being talked about is how, by now, it's not understood that just having this view and making this statement, this value statement, that abortion is illegal and it shouldn't be done, and people that are doing abortion, well, you're sinning, that somehow this is somehow going to correct or erase the behavior or impact it in any way at this point. The thing that makes me go crazy is I never hear this being said. It's like, what do you people who have an opinion about abortion, what do you have to say about it when it's the person? What do you have to say about the person who's being raped, or the person in the situation, whatever it is, where abortion becomes an option? Especially, it seems insane to me that we are at the point where we think it's somehow helpful and a good thing that we pass judgment about something that we're not experiencing. It's like, it's one thing to say all this stuff, but can you prevent someone being raped and getting pregnant by having this moral stance? And the answer is no. You know, I mean, if there's any sort of social impact that it's had, it's got to be minuscule in relation to how ineffective and just unhelpful, in my opinion, holding on to this, this broken perception. I'm not, see, once again here, it's like I gotta explain more because I'm gonna just speak clearly, because I think people are just dumb and just are very shallow and strike out when they hear something they don't agree with. They didn't stop listening like they were listening in the first fucking place. My words aren't to condone abortion. Of course, I don't like the idea of abortion. What I'm saying is this: what good is it for some official to pass opinion about abortion when he is not the person who faces the possibility of needing an abortion? What does he have to say about being raped? Why does that count for anything? It seems ludicrous to me that this is being discussed and it's not having. I mean, surely I know there's going to be people that are going to come up with the statistics or some kind of opinion that's opposite of mine that says, well, it does this and that, and I don't care, because I think that in the face of what I perceive, and again, I'm using the word perception, but what I see, what I observe, okay, let me use that word, what I observe as the general quality and level of everyday life, for common man, things such as personal assault, rape, and just disrespect of other people's personal space is very, very, very common. And I guess that's what makes me angry when I listen to media, read media, and these old, worn out perceptions that are curried and encouraged and continually propagated like it's doing anybody any fucking good except placating the people who have these opinions. It's like, where are you when the kids are getting raped? Where are you? You know what I mean? How does your opinion help these people? I mean, I'm a mental health specialist, 30 plus years experience, work with all kinds of people. One of the stories, I mean, working mental health, I mean, one of the stories I've heard continually over and over again are the stories of how people's lives have gone, starting when they were kids, of dysfunction. You know what I'm saying? And all the generations that I've worked with of people who, it's like baby after baby. Not that they're not wanted, but many of them aren't. Many of them were accidents, and many of them were like because of incest and inbreeding and crazy shit that the general media, when it handles it, it seems to still shockify it as opposed to try to deal with the fact that it's more than norm. It's really very much part of the norm of what's going on. See, that's the thing I try to be getting at when I think these things and want to talk about them. It's like, if you can just lift back the veil and somehow, it's so hard though, but to get more honest public discourse and discussion, and especially on the level of professionals talking about issues on a more humane, realistic level, rather than pontificating and continual dogma being shoved down people's throats. It's like it's self-serving for institutions and the status quo. It doesn't help those people, and I include myself, down here on the street who are dealing with this shit. That's one example of where perception, I think, that perception is everything and how it can just be so unproductive. Here's another one that is a personal one of mine. And again, this one is going to probably make, like anything, pros and cons. The more I talk, the more I'm thinking there's no reason not to upload this, except that it's some real loaded topics, and will prick people who are real status quo in their outlook, and just toe the line of whatever belief system they've, been, I'll say it, brainwashed into. You don't have a mind of your own, or if you do, it's like, for heaven's sakes, why cannot you see freedom, individual freedom, and how it's like, unless you're there to do some cock blocking, what the fuck have you got to say about someone that might, not want to have this baby by some just some fucker, that's violated them, I speak from knowing what it's like to be violated, okay? And I dare say that some of these pious fuck faces, and I will call you, express my anger for myself and other victims to you, talking your shit. You're not helping anybody, We think that, well, of course we don't like abortion, but abortion should be illegal. Like it's fucking helping anything. Fuck you ass peoples. God. Okay? Needed to get the anger out as well as to talk about perception. Here's another one. I've worked with a lot of people, and there are a lot of mind-altering substances. There are a lot of things that we ingest and that we have contact with that alter the perceptions, the mind, etc. Okay, it's just part of life. We come from this history of the demonization of marijuana for a number of reasons, several of them being economic and political. When you look at the history of it, and I didn't make this up, it's all there. But what I'm saying, first off, before I get to my whole thing about perception, is I have worked with enough people where I can see that just like alcohol, there are people who have no business smoking weed, and also children have no business smoking weed. Yeah, it's definitely one of those type of things where it's responsible use of it definitely calls into play. Looking at it responsibly, which is children need to develop. Okay, you know what I'm saying? If we lived in a culture where it was part of the norm that everyone was, operating on that level, it'd be different. But people need to develop and deal with Western norms and the way that we have things set up. Children have no business smoking weed, okay? Adults, it's a whole nother thing, especially at this point in history. But here's the deal. This is what I'm trying to say. It's just a shame that the problem with the legalization of marijuana continues to be this stubborn perception that is held by many, and that's really what it is a perception. It's a view that was cultivated about this plant due to a certain amount of information, a lot of misinformation, and false history. And in the face of all the potential uses and just, and then the whole idea of freedom, this dogged perception of this thing being some sort of demonic, negative thing it's tiring, and it's so unhelpful, because especially looking at the economics of the day, it's like here we have, just looking very simply at the way that it was used, not as a substance to alter your perceptions, but as a hemp, as a product, the history of this country and many cultures, you know what I'm saying? It's ludicrous, the same way that Monsanto has, copyrighted the fucking seed, it's like, for our benefit. Yeah, right, Now, these are all my opinions, but what I'm saying is these dogged perceptions that are self-serving of institutions and people who are in the position of, they got it made. You know what I mean? Things have got to stay the same. And these perceptions lead into that. And I just wanted to talk about that because I think there are some people who could benefit from realizing it's like, hey, wait a minute, I have a choice about this. It's not like this information or these perceptions are really the truth, as people say they are. I'm not saying mine is the truth. I'm saying what I've learned from studying different schools of thought, which is to question and decide for oneself. Take another look at your knee-jerk reaction to certain things. Are you just following the party line because that's what you do? Have you really thought about what it is you think? Perception is powerful, and it's what we're all running on, and it just makes me crazy. Like I said, I probably won't upload this, so I'm going to keep talking for a second. This whole political thing, we're 2 weeks from the election, and it's like, it does make a slight difference who gets into office, but the bottom line is that ultimately the people at the head of the trough are the ones who will be expecting to be benefited by whatever is done by those in office. And so we common folk get the trickle down, which at this point is nothing to be laughed at or to be happy about. That's my perception, but from my observation, and so I flip it back on these guys, that, you got the fucking nerve, to spend all this money just to try and get people to think a certain way. And it's so obvious because you hear, like, on NPR, what is it you need to hear him saying? Did you hear what you needed to hear? Are you convinced? It's like, oh, it just makes me insane. Like, the fact that he could say what you want to hear is going to actually make reality any better. Oh my God, it just makes me insane. And we're trapped in this, it's like Shakespeare said, life is but a stage, it's this opera, and we got to play these parts out, and it's like, why even bother to, would ignorance be bliss? Would it be better to just stop looking at this? I don't know, because at this point I really can't. It's like, it's the way I'm seem to be hot wired, and these are thoughts I really do want to share, but I I I don't want to argue about this, Frankly, you folks that have the opinion that is still pretty mainstream, I don't care. I really think you guys are just really jacked. It's just so destructive to me. Look at the state of this world based on religious wars, political wars, economic wars. And you people are supposed to be smart and running things and mature and stuff. Not like I'm any better than you, but it's like, I think this needs to be said. It's a point of view that needs to be stated. I think someone can be pissed off and made real and incensed about this, and there's going to be other folks who might say, "Oh my goodness, I never really thought about that." And that might be helpful to them, and that's my whole purpose in wanting to say these things and wanting to put it out there. There's a part of me that's really thinking that, I think I said what it is I've been thinking fairly well. And at some point I may put this online. I might just do it today. I'm pretty impulsive like that, People tell me that they think I have big cojones to say the things I say. No one's ever told me that they think I will regret what I've said. Mostly the way I feel, it's like I'm just refusing to regret. It's like, this is real life, and it's like, it's a shame that we have this mindset that somehow it's better to pretend we're something we're not, or that we're more together than we are, or that we don't have flaws, or that, you know what I mean? Because that seems to be the crux of not being real, trying to present this picture that you're more together than you really are. And it's like, that just doesn't help anything, you know? I don't think it's helping anybody, really, at this point. It's like, even at the risk of, you know, somebody trying to throw you under the bus or throw me under the bus, I think, I think there's a value in people trying to be a little more honest in sharing through this social media, rather than just to keep using it to try to impress people or to create a false image of yourself. I mean, again, I keep getting back to that because that is the norm worldwide, but especially the Western norm, which, and then you know what I mean by Western, the Western type of culture that tries to, colonize everywhere all over the world, be like us. I'm not biting the hand that feeds. Once again, I'm thinking about naysayers and folks that just want to have a problem with where I'm coming from. I'm calling it like I see it, and I think it needs to be said. You know what I'm saying? I got a lot to be thankful for. But I just, again, this whole idea of perception being the ruler of things, and how perception is used to manipulate people, and how it's just, it just really, it's just something that I think, I just want to say, did you know, people, that, almost everything that's put out there through, it's to manipulate us, and William Burroughs said it, that language is a virus, and mostly we don't, you know, it's a virus as opposed to being a tool. Uh, just some thoughts that I'm thinking, man, I want to post this, but I tell you what, I'll tell you what, if you watch me all the way to the end here, if all you want to do is throw some hate at me, just save it. You know what I'm saying? Just save it.